You ready?
Okay, I got 7 o'clock. Everybody, welcome to the La Mesa-Foothills Dem Club. We're going to come to order. Thank you. Oh, please, no. Do we have any brand new members that have just signed up? Woohoo! Do we have any guests tonight? Guests, stand up. Nobody's standing up. Okay. I know there are guests out there, but oh, there are. Hello, welcome.
She's a guest.
Yes. Thank you for being here. We're going to start off with our flag salute, led by Scott.
Hi everyone, my name is Scott. I am a guest here, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Right hand over the heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Hopefully everybody can see an agenda. There's on every table. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Chris Pearson, second. Okay, let's see. All right. Next, we're going to have Matt Strabone and Chris Pearson as our nomination committee proceed with the club board elections. Come on, guys.
Oh, my job this time is to introduce Matt as the treasurer for the city of La Mesa, not the city of El Cajon, as I did the last time, because I have El Cajon City Council and Santee City Council and school boards on my brain, because those are the hardest to win in 2024. So please welcome our city treasurer of La Mesa, Mr. Matt Strabone.
Good evening, friends. Happy New Year. We are here, as you may know, to select the board of directors for the La Mesa-Foothills Democratic Club for 2024. We do so under the auspices of Article 4, Section 3 of the club's bylaws relating to election and tenure. Thank you, Chris Pearson, for putting that together. I'm not going to read said bylaws. Sorry, Chris, maybe next time. I will, however, read the current nominees, and then I will entertain any additional nominations from the floor. The current nominees for officers for 2024, the La Mesa-Foothills Democratic Club Board of Directors: Tina Reinberg for president, Jean Mullally, Tina Reinberg for president, Jean Mullally for treasurer, Rosamond Blevins for secretary and assistant treasurer, Katie Seghetti for vice president in charge of membership, Brenda Miller for vice president in charge of programming, Meryl Perry for vice president in charge of special event planning, Gianni Castaños and Trinity Dubrow as board members at large. I will now entertain any potential nominations from the floor. Hearing none, I will make one. I nominate for vice president of political action, one Mr. Chris Pearson. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. He is added to the slate.
You have to ask him if he'll accept it. Don't we have to ask him if he'll accept it?
Nah, nonsense. It's
Okay.
fine. Do I have any further nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I am proud to share that by acclamation, we are going to accept one more motion. Can I get a motion to approve this proposed board of directors by acclamation? So moved. Seconded. Do I hear any disagreement with said motion? I do not. Therefore, the board has been elected by acclamation for 2024. Congratulations. And I shall now turn it back to our club president, who will kick off the programming. Thank you.
It was not me. goodness, he's tall. So we're going to get sworn in. All the board members, please come forward. Okay.
So we're gonna do it all together as a group?
Right. Being sworn in, not sworn out.
Okay. So we're gonna have to move this slide on down. No, Chris, you have to move right here.
You're gonna do it? Fantastic. You're right in front.
Come on, Chris. Come on up, come on up. Come on up. This is amazing. So, all right, we ready to be sworn in?
Yes.
Okay. So, are you prepared to take this oath of office? Yes. All right, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. All right. In the presence of, this part, no, not yet. In the presence of honored guests and members here assembled, I state your name. Do solemnly promise and pledge that I will faithfully execute the duties of, please state your position.
The duties of Secretary and Assistant Treasurer.
To the best of my knowledge and ability.
To the best of my knowledge and ability.
To commit myself to the La Mesa Democratic Club's Code of Ethics.
To the Mesa Democratic Club's Code of Ethics.
Further the objective of this club.
Further the objectives of this club.
And assume full responsibility for this honorable organization.
And assume responsibility for this responsibility of this wonderful club. I don't remember more than 3.
So by the authority vested in me by you all, by the club, I now proclaim you duly installed as the officers of the Mesa Democratic. Congratulations.
Somebody took my notes. Before we begin, I'm gonna make a quick announcement. Anybody that is running for, Central Committee, rather than have you give announcements at the end, let's just all announce now. So I'll ask you to stand up, say your name, and say what district. I'm Tina, I'm running for District 79. Go ahead, Miriam.
I'm Miriam Plackett, and I'm running for the 79th Assembly District.
Good. Yes,
Andrea Bastianski, also Assembly District 79.
yes.
Allison Snow in Assembly District 79.
Okay. You could vote for all 4 of us. Are there any others? You're welcome. I saved you all 15 minutes of speeches where everybody was gonna say their name and blah, 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 blah. We should vote for all of them, and remember, and pay attention when you get your ballot. It's a long list, especially in 79. Okay, now we're going to have Jean Mullally, our newly renewed club treasurer, talk to us about our budget for 2024.
Thank you, Tina. So we do have a budget, and it was, the bylaws require us to prepare a budget and to present it to the general membership. First, we presented it to the board, and they made some changes in it, and we took that document and we're bringing that forward tonight to, so I'll describe it to you. Our budget for forecast for revenue for the year is $12,600, which is based on the year that just ended. We have $12,300 of revenue, and for expenses, we plan to incur no more than $10,400 against $11,600 in the prior year. So there were some dramatic changes that have been made. Our revenue has been dropping since 2020 from 14,500. So during the COVID Trump years, we did have 40% more revenue, but it has dropped steadily over the years. But this last year that just ended, it went from 10,000 to 12,000, which was pretty good. We made some changes in how we ask memberships for dues, and there's a very nice letter that Katie grew up and sent out, and she sent out a letter to all the members. It was a beautiful letter. And then those that did not pay it on the first letter, she sent a second letter, which is equally nice, asking for dues. So we ended up with dues in the month of November that we've never had before. So it just poured in, and we hope to do the same next year. And for expenses, one of the things, major thing that we changed was we converted from a printed newsletter to a web-based newsletter. So we successfully moved from printing to digital, and that will save us roughly $4,000 a year in expenses. So the newsletter costs have been high. In 2020, they were $10,000, $6,000, $7,000. This last year, we made that change, and they dropped to $3,000, and we'll get a full year benefit from that this year, dropping that cost to $1,000. So, as much as we like the hard copy, it's a beautiful letter that is being prepared, and I think it was a successful change that was made. So, as a result, this last year, we ended up with $700 of surplus funds above donations, above expenses. The year before, we ran $4,000 more in expenses than we did. So we're dropping our, and next year, the year coming forward, we're planning to end the year with $2,000 more in our treasury, which could be used for supporting candidates or whatever else we need to do. So that's the budget that I'm presenting, and I think is there a motion to approve the budget? So moved. Matt, a second?
I second.
Second, Brenda. So are there any other questions?
Yes, last year you gave us a copy of the budget.
Pardon me?
Last year you gave us a copy of the budget.
Well, we presented it on a screen, but I do have a copy. If anybody wants a copy, I can provide that to you.
Online. Is it online?
No, it's not online, but I can give you a hard copy of it.
It's not online.
It's not online. But the bylaws provide that each member may have a copy of the details of the budget. And so I do have copies for anyone that would like to have one. And if I run out of copies, I will mail that to you. So I'll give you that as soon as I step down from this place. Any other questions? Seeing none, do you want to conduct the vote, Tina? Can we vote on this?
Yes, to approve.
But by acclamation, is there anybody voting no? Seeing none, then passes by acclamation.
All right, now we're ready for our program of the evening. Remember, you cannot win the 50-50 unless you buy tickets. Go see Katie in the back. But right now I'm going to invite to the podium Chris Pearson, who is going to moderate tonight's forum. Chris.
Hello, Democrats. How the hell are you? You ready for 2024? What do you think? Primary's 2 months away. I'm just asking some of the audience members, who's going to win the Republican primary?
Trump.
You're not going to go Haley? Nobody's going to go Haley with me? Really?
No.
Think Haley doesn't have a shot?
She's just as mean, but yeah.
Ah, you're scaring me already. Here we go with 2024. Yeah, Chris Christie. Yeah, the first question will not be what was the purpose of the Civil War, so our candidates can rest assured that there will be no gotcha questions. Before we get started, I'm just curious, did anybody here go to the debate between Monica Montgomery Stepp and Amy Reichert at Cuyamaca College run by the League of Women Voters? Raise your hand. Anybody? Just me? A couple? We're going to use the same format here, and basically as we announce and bring our candidates up, you can yell and scream and applaud all you want, but once they get up here, let's hold our applause, do the hands in the air thing if you want to show approval, but we want to get through as many of these questions. We did ask for a bunch of questions from the floor, and we got a bunch. If you have any more, write them down on a scrap of paper on your table and give them to either Tina or Janet in front, and we'll get those questions answered. So unfortunately, one of our candidates, Mayor Vasquez, cannot be here. She has some health issues she's recovering from, and we're disappointed that she's not here. But will you please welcome and bring to the, she'll be here next month. Yes, thank you, Brandon. Will you please welcome to the stage our two candidates for the 79th California Assembly District 79, Councilmember Colin Parent and staffer for former Assembly Member Shirley Weber, Lachey Sharp Collins. Okay, first question.
We're sitting down.
No, man. We're gonna hit the ground running here.
Chris is starting out with a hazing.
Yes. We know you. We know all three of the candidates that are running, and we know how smart they are. We know how talented they are. They've been staffers. They've been electeds. They've been around the Democratic Party for a long time. So we're going to ask you a general advice question to get started. What advice do you have for Democrats who run against Republicans in competitive races? And this is not a hypothetical. Stephen Houlihan is running against Darrell Issa. Kevin Juice is running against Carl DeMaio. They're plus Republican districts. If you don't get some Republican and independent votes, you're not even going to be competitive. I mean, I don't know how you slice that voting universe to figure out where those votes are coming from and what the message is. But generally speaking, we know how smart the three of you, the two of you here are. I mean, you're veteran staffers, you're veteran campaigners, you're veteran activists in the Democratic Party. What advice do you have for Democrats who run against Republican in competitive races? Mike.
Let me go first? All right.
So thanks very much, everyone, for having me here. My name is Colin Parent. I'm on the City Council here in La Mesa. Before I talk to this, I'm skipping the question for a second. But before I have a practice every time I'm upstage here. I always want to make sure everyone here knows that the only reason I ever got elected to the City Council in La Mesa was because of the work of this club. I think that deserves applause. You also reflect to that. So I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful for your continued activism and interest in Democratic politics. So when I ran in 2016 and won, I was the first Democrat in more than 20 years to get elected to the City Council in La Mesa. And a lot of people told me that wasn't possible because it was had such a legacy of Republican leadership. And I made it a point when I went door to door to not ignore those Republicans in La Mesa, but to talk to them, right? And I think there are two really key things. And by the way, there's no Republican in this race, so this is not advice. So I'm not giving away my secrets to Ms. Sharp Collins here, right? Because like we're just Democrats in this race. But I think there's really two things that are really important to do for those who are running against Republicans. One, there's a lot of things that are Democratic priorities that are popular amongst Democrats and Republicans, right? So talk about those things. Talk about filling potholes. Talk about solving homelessness. Talk about the housing affordability. Talk about things that are broadly appealing, not just to us, not just to our friends, but to everyone. That's, I think, really crucial. But I think the other thing that's really important, and this is really hard, this is not what comes to first to mind sometimes to candidates, is to be a listener. So I had this experience, people have probably heard me tell this story before, but I walked a ton in 2016. I would spend all day walking, and some people, met me first at their door. And about once a day I would knock on the door and someone would answer, and they were like a MAGA Republican or something, right? And they would monologue to me for like 10, 15 minutes about a bunch of bad views that they had. And I would patiently listen. I wouldn't tell them that I agreed with them, and they knew who I was usually, and they knew that I wasn't going to agree with them. But then, and it was kind of an uncomfortable, 10 minutes. And these are always monologuists, by the way, right? And at the end of that, those conversations, I asked them the same thing that I asked the people I had a good conversation with, which was, well, thanks for talking with me, can I count on your vote? And the first couple times I said this, I thought they were gonna, deck me, right? But instead, without fail, their response was always, of course. And it wasn't because we agreed on something, it was because I listened. And I treated them with respect and dignity. And I valued them as a voter and as a member of our civic community. And that doesn't work for everybody, but it did work a lot. And so for those who find themselves running in a difficult race against Republicans, you don't have to compromise your values, but you do got to spend the time, and you got to listen to them, and you treat them with respect, and they may return the favor.
This is the educator in me, you are. It's hard for me to sit down and talk. This is the professor side of me. Sorry. This is let it out. So similar to what Colin has already stated, by the way, very great response. For me, it has to deal with 100% definitely listening. And the key is that you have to be able to build strong relationships. It's all about making sure that you have strong, trusted relationships within the community. By you going out there, being seen, knocking on these doors, having these different conversations, the one thing that I tell people all the time as the community engagement specialist at the San Diego County Office of Ed is, when you go to meet people, first things first is to say, what is it about you that you wish I knew? Once you pose a question such as that and pause, the floodgates open up for you to learn more about your overall constituencies. Then you can begin to learn a little bit more in regards to their overall values, okay? Their morals, their beliefs, their stance, whether it's gonna be from the Democratic side or from the Republican side. But keep in mind, there are some commonalities that do exist, especially when you think about the reproductive rights of us as women. That's something that goes across every line. And so by you having these strong conversations and being able to do what I like to call ujima, which is our collective responsibility, being able to move forward, to me, that is one of the biggest things that can help you win an actual election. Think about Monica's campaign. Think about her campaign. She's known as the People's City Councilwoman at that time, now the People's Supervisor. And that is because she did listen. She listened. So as a community engagement specialist, that's one thing that I always tell everybody. And there's no one-size-fit-all model. There's no one-size-fit-all approach to any type of issue and or concern. But it's very important for you to be seen. It's very important for people to feel heard, to feel valued, and to know that whatever their decisions are, is that you're going to respect them for who they are. And so for me, that's the way you're going to be able to win, is to carry forward the people's voice. Making sure that you're fighting with your community, standing with your community, and making sure that they are constantly at the table and not on the menu when it comes down to legislative policy.
Thank you. Let's take a question from one of our audience members. What can Democratic candidates do to prevent a split vote allowing a Republican minority candidate to get elected? It's kind of a follow-up question to what you're both talking about. Ms. Sharp-Collins?
To prevent a split vote? I just was saying, you have to get out there and do the work. You get out there, you do the work, you meet with everyone, you have these hard-fought conversations, you stand true to your overall values, to your concerns, and you do not waver. It's about you being a candidate that is going to be reliable, someone who's going to be dependable. So when they come to you to have conversations, they know and they can trust that you would never wave, because there's no one waving anything in front of you to get you to move to their side. So in order to keep the vote from splitting, you must be you at all times. Be your authentic self as a candidate, and that carries across a lot further than you just laying out the information for what people want to hear. So as long as you stand true to your values, you can win this race. I'm talking directly to you. Stand true to your core values and you can win this race.
Yeah, thank you. I suspect this question is in regard to the local elections like La Mesa's, where we have top two will get elected, and there's no primary and there's no party affiliation on the ballot. We had an experience recently in La Mesa twice now, where we had a lot of Democrats running and only one Republican, and the Republican was able to win and win in a special election, win in a re-election. Because there was the Democrats split their votes, and this is and La Mesa is a 2-to-1 Democratic city, right? Like statistically, we shouldn't expect La Mesans to elect Republicans anymore, but we have, and so what that means is if Democratic leadership, Democratic activists, party folks, those of us in this room need to be really thoughtful and really organized and really disciplined to make sure that we're not splitting our votes and we're not diluting our ability to elect Democrats to represent us on city council. And by the way, I see we have Allison Snow from the city of Lemon Grove. They have the same challenges, right? They have the same challenges. And so I think what that means for all of you who are thinking about either running for office someday or supporting candidates who are going to be running this upcoming cycle, really think critically about whether or not adding another person to the ballot is going to be in service of electing good Democrats, or is it going to be against the interests of electing Democrats? And this also matters for party selection or for candidate selection too, right? You want to support candidates who can be broadly supported by the Democratic Party, by the Democratic base. And that because otherwise we're going to split the votes, and it's not going to work. And so I want to encourage everyone to really think, try to be magnanimous about this, really thoughtful about it, strategic about it when you're thinking about whether or not you're going to put your name on a ballot or whether or not you're going to support someone who might be thinking about it. And we're still waiting for, and Jack Shu is on up for re-election next year, and hopefully he'll run for re-election, and we won't have to have that conversation in La Mesa.
Thank you. Our next question, I think, is from a pissed off partisan in the audience. I mean, I don't know which one it is, but let me just read it. Would you consider a proposal to change the California law that would transfer the authority for drawing state legislative and congressional maps to the California State Legislature instead of the current nonpartisan committee, like most Republican majority states do? Hey man, I just read them, man. You want me to read it one more time? Slower? Sure. Would you consider a proposal to change the California law that would transfer the authority for drawing state legislative and congressional maps to the California State Legislature instead of the current nonpartisan committee? In other words, like most Republican majority states do.
I would not. I think there's arguments for it, right? We're a Democratic-controlled legislature. If we had the legislature do this, could we get more, have more favorable districts? I mean, I can see why people might want that, and that's historically how California's been. But we've gone through, I think, 2 different cycles now where we've had a nonpartisan citizens group that does the line drawing, and I think first of all it's worked out fine for Democrats, right? But second of all, I think regardless, we're all Democrats here in a Democratic club, but we're also Americans. We believe in fairness. We believe in fair treatment, and I think that the system that we have here is well designed for to have fair and just outcomes, and that's why Democratic leaders like Eric Holder, former Attorney General for President Obama, has been going around the country trying to get states to adopt systems like California has, because it is more fair, it is more just, and the important thing for partisan Democrats to remember too is that when the lines are drawn fairly and justly, Democrats do well, right? Because if we get a fair fight and we can have communicate our message to voters, the voters are into it, and we win more than we lose. So I would not favor changing that, and would strongly oppose efforts to do otherwise.
I have to echo, because I would not. Think about the 79th State Assembly District. Think about, because we were just, our lines were just redrawn. And so with our lines being redrawn, when you look at the map itself, we now have a more equitable and also just map to represent us. Before, everything was just spread out. And so now, by the lines being redrawn, we have been able to have a lot more of our favorable outcomes moving forward. So once again, I do echo everything that Councilmember Parent has stated, but I want you to be mindful and look at what has happened for the 79th State Assembly District. The way that the lines have been drawn, so much good has now come out of it, because now you have more of our greater populations. For example, the BIPOC communities are now all within the 79th State Assembly District, so therefore the votes are even coming out stronger. And so we're able to get a lot more results. So I just want to reflect back on the 79th and what this, the lines being redrawn has done for us as a district.
Okay, oh God, I wonder who wrote this one. Many cities are being approached by digital billboard companies about bringing these signs to various cities. Would you be interested in bringing forward legislation to limit or restrict digital billboards in our small towns and cities?
We're on a rotation. So yes. The answer to your question, this is not. There you go. Yes, legislation to limit that. There are a number of factors that come into play that we have to be mindful of when it comes to having these different types of billboards. When we tend to look at this, I mean, I get that there's a cost to it, there's money to it, there's things that's supposed to come to the cities and so forth. But keep in mind, as far as health, you have a lot of people that have epilepsy. There's different things based on the lights that are there that can trigger some of the health concerns that are there. You have it to where the lights are going to be interfering as far as driving, as far as freeways. The hospitals itself, especially where these signs were going to be going, that was going to have an impact for the Rosemont Hospital as well. So there's a number of factors that we have to look into and make sure that our community voices is also a part of that conversation moving forward. So I would definitely have the conversation to limit the ability to have these different type of billboards coming in because of the impact that it can have on the community, not only for the health side of it, but also for safety reasons as well.
Yeah, so just so people understand, there's already statewide restrictions on billboards and digital billboards. Those exist today. In order for billboards to be put in, they have to replace existing billboards. They also have to be signed off by the California Highway Patrol. So there's a big, robust set of rules already in California for that. I think probably people may be aware, I was open to receiving some proposals so that the city council could evaluate whether or not to do that in La Mesa. Ultimately, we decided not to do that. And so I think that's an example of that local control that currently exists working out. Some cities reach different conclusions. I love Lemon Grove again. I'm sorry, Allison. I didn't mean to be calling you out all the time, but Lemon Grove reached a different conclusion not too long ago, and I think that's a-okay that different cities make those different judgments based on their aesthetic preferences, budget constraints, et cetera, et cetera. So if there's something that needs some updating on the state rules, I'm certainly open to it. But so far I haven't heard anyone say that there's something wrong with the rules. People have some objections to them, or they like them, and I think instead what we're seeing is that local governments and local citizens are making their decisions based on their preferences, and I think that's totally okay.
Thank you. Next question, what's the latest on PFAS removal in drinking water?
Yeah, I mean, probably the person who wrote that question has the answer, so I'm happy to hear it. I think it's very important to have clear and healthy and safe drinking water. And I think San Diego, I mean, the issue that we hear about more in San Diego is about the high cost of water, and it's gonna get higher. I don't know if you guys know, but a couple of the water agencies in the San Diego region just left the San Diego Water Authority, and that means the rest of us, including people here in East County, people here in La Mesa, and including people in the city of San Diego, are gonna have to pay more to pay down the debt service for all the infrastructure that we've invested in to make sure that we have strong water reliability in the region. And so I think that's just one of many challenges that we're gonna have for making sure that we have, not just safe and functioning utilities like water supply, but make sure that it's affordable for ratepayers. And that's, I think, a big challenge. I mean, San Diego, we pay more for electricity than any other region in the United States. That's a big problem, right? And this is also a city where we have a region where we're paying way too much for housing, right? So cost of living is a major challenge. Now, with PFAS and other chemicals, yeah, we absolutely, we should be doing everything we can to make sure those aren't in the water supply and that those things are healthy and safe. If the state regulations on those aren't up to par, then we need to pass legislation or pressure the governor to update those regulations. But I think the more pressing and immediate challenge that's facing a lot of people in California is really just the high cost of living and utilities being a part of them.
Sure. What's the latest on PFAS removals in the drinking water?
What's the latest? So once again, I don't know who posed the question, but yeah, if you have some answers or even like to have an additional conversation with me, let's please have a more of an in-depth conversation, because I'll tell you, this is not my issue area. However, I am referring to people such as Andrew Beth-Dancy and others to talk about water itself. But when it comes to dealing with PFAS, it's important that we do everything we can to get the different types of PFAS chemicals out of the water within itself. That is extremely important, so we can try to eliminate the issues with thyroid issues. We have a big issue pertaining to birth defects. We have a high rate of cancer, especially within the 79th State Assembly District. The leading cause of death within San Diego is cancer. And so that is something separate. So instead of dealing with the cardiovascular, which is with other areas, so it is extremely important that we do everything we can to get this particular PFAS chemicals out of our water. And so I know that we've been still working on our pure water format for quite some time. There's a lot of other water treatment plants and services that we have been looking at. So it's just important for us to do everything we can to get this stuff done and get it out as soon as possible, because our quality of life within the 79th, it is extremely important. And so we have so many areas that are still living as really rural, to where people are still boiling water and other things as well because of the different chemicals that are there. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, and we can continue to look at this at the state level to do what we can to get this rectified as soon as possible.
Thank you. We have a couple other climate-related questions here. What type of legislation will you support to reduce GHG emissions? We're all suffering from the effects of climate change. Those that have the least suffer the most. 79th District includes communities of concern that have been disadvantaged in many ways: education, affordable housing, jobs, but also they are subjected to the worst air quality and as a result the worst health outcomes. What type of legislation would you support to reduce GHG emissions?
So there's a lot that has to happen as we're starting talking about climate action. So it's important that we continue to develop effective strategies to mitigate these climate changes and challenges, and also adapting to the infrastructure itself. Not only is it dealing with adapting to the infrastructure, but it's also important for us to know that this is critical to our overall community's well-being. We can further address climate action by expanding our renewable energy. One of the things that I would like to do that I've talked about has to deal with making sure that the state gives us electric vehicles. It's important that we figure out, to me it makes a lot more sense and it's a lot more feasible, because as we want to hit a certain mark, then we need to make sure that those who cannot afford it have the opportunity to have access to that, equal access to that. When it comes to us building our homes within itself, it's important that we have these charging ports that are also going to be built in with these homes. and also fund different older homes as well to put these charging ports that are going to be there. As we continue to move forward and talk about the buses and trying to move the buses over to the zero emission, we know that it's going to be an actual daunting task for us to get there, but it is, in my personal opinion, is doable, but the state's going to have to push out a lot more money to help get this done. So we have to start looking at other feasible ways to move forward. We definitely have to, I took some notes that I want to make sure I'm not missing them. It's also pertaining to public awareness about the sustainability and lifestyles. That is also extremely important, but we need to have and implement stricter regulations on the emissions from the industries itself. So we need to do what we can to look into that also. So that's just a brief synopsis of what I would want to do and start to look into. I was at the Live Well San Diego Summit, and I was a part of one of the climate action groups, and we've had these conversations in regards to dealing with, not only is it pertaining to the zero emission, dealing with the vehicles, but also going to the rural areas itself and dealing with the actual land, the agriculture, the land itself. So what else can we do to ensure that our soil is going to be feasible, that it's going to be valuable to continue to replenish us? And so these are things that we have to have conversations about. We have to continue to go out to all areas and make sure that we are, once again, holding these industries accountable, and that the actual testing to the land is being done, and that it's being reported back to us appropriately and within an actual timely fashion. So that way we can know and understand what things we need to do to move forward. That's just a couple of key points, and I'll turn it over to Councilmember Parent.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great question. So, as folks may know, I have a day job. I'm the CEO and the general counsel of a climate-oriented nonprofit, Circulate San Diego. We do a lot of advocacy around transportation and housing, largely with a climate focus. So this is really, right up my alley. And for those folks who also don't know, the city of La Mesa, during my first term, adopted the first climate action plan, the first enforceable climate action plan of any city in East County. So I'm very, very proud about that. I think that's a really important thing to do. But our climate action plan, just like the climate action plan of the city of San Diego, identifies that the largest share of greenhouse gas emissions in our region is not from agriculture, it's not from factories, it's from the cars that we all drove to get here, right? And so the biggest component of addressing that for our climate action plan in Mesa and for City of San Diego, and I suspect for any of the other jurisdictions that have had them too, is figuring out how to replace those car trips with something else, right? And so that's called mode share, right? And so it means I got to do a couple of different things. We got to make sure that we're funding more for public transit so that it's more attractive, it's faster, people are willing to ride it and willing to use that as an alternative. We have to make investments in our sidewalk infrastructure and our bike facilities so that we can, so that people can feel safe walking around in their neighborhoods, and they don't feel like an obligation to drive everywhere. And a lot of those things are funded by state dollars, state grants, and all that. So we need to make sure that we're making big investments. I'm also very proud to say that when I was I think it was my first term in the city council, voted to create the Joint Powers Authority to create San Diego Community Power, a community choice aggregator for our region that is now in place, that is actually sourcing energy differently than SDG&E with a greener energy mix and a higher commitment to reaching 100% renewable energies. I actually, just this year, was appointed by my colleagues to serve on behalf of the City of La Mesa on the San Diego Community Power Board. And that is a very important part of our region's ability to move into 100% green energy. And so we need to be, and so we're approving power purchase agreements for solar farms and wind farms and all these other things to be able to source renewable energy to be able to keep our lights on here in the San Diego region. What we need from the state is we need to make sure that that we can actually get those projects permitted and done so that we can actually get the green power that we need. And right now, it is not easy to get those projects through. And so we need to rethink some of the ways that they're doing this. These are good projects that we need to embrace, and the state needs to help us be able to do that. And finally, I think that the last part is that, you know, we're all I just talked about state and local stuff, right? That's I'm running for state office, and I'm on a city council. The Inflation Reduction Act that passed through Congress is a generational opportunity to make new investments in clean energy. And what we need to be thinking about on the local level and on the state level is figuring out how we can best capitalize, how can we put California in a position to get the most benefit out of that, the most tax credits, the most investments. What can we do to facilitate that? Not get in its way, but to make it happen and get the most benefits from that. And that's something that I'm really keen on. It's great that we're talking about local stuff. We got to do local stuff, but there's also opportunities to take advantage of some big dollars coming in from the feds.
Hold on to the mic. This audience wants more on climate change. Since the change in net metering, solar installation has dropped way down, including my contractor leaving the industry. What do you feel about this, and what can the California legislature change?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting, challenging issue. So basically, if people aren't familiar with it, is anyone who's got solar on their house? Right? Oh my goodness! Oh, good. Look at all these good Democrats. And so the rules recently changed. So most of you all have gotten this earlier. The rules probably don't apply to you, so you don't have to really sweat it. But basically, the rules change, and so it's now people who are adding solar on a going forward basis are going to be able to get basically a less of a financial benefit from that, right? And the reason and the rationales are not crazy. The reasons are that there's an existing load for the infrastructure, and everyone needs it, but with the folks who have solar don't really pay for the maintenance in the same way, and there's a concern that if this goes on to a certain level, then the only people who will be paying for our grid are renters like me who can't put solar on the buildings they live in because they don't own it, right? And so there's an argument there, but what we want to really avoid is what's happening now is this disincentive for people to make those kinds of investments. We want people to be making those investments. And so I think the situation that we're finding ourselves in is not good, and we need to figure out how to address it. And I think there are going to be some opportunities like being able to figure out how to best capitalize on the Inflation Reduction Act's benefits, so we can figure out a way to square that circle so that homeowners and property owners are able to continue to have a financial incentive to make those kinds of investments. So I think it's tough though, right? I don't have a perfect answer. But I do think what we need to do is we need to say on a matter of first principles that we want people, that solar is good, we want individual homeowners and property owners to make those investments, and then if we can all agree on those things, I think everyone in this room agrees on that, then we need to figure out, okay, well, what are the tool sets that we can have, what are the incentives that we can have to make sure that we can make that an ongoing valuable value prospect for homeowners, and use all the tools available, including the incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act, to make sure that people are continuing to make those kinds of investments on their properties.
Sorry, once again, it's just hard to sit. I'm trying to sit, you guys. I'm trying to stay seated. It's just very difficult. So when it comes down to this, for me, the way that I want to look at this has to do with, we need to flip this around and make sure that we're starting to educate our children about the importance of energy, the importance of solar, because when it comes down to this conversation, a lot of our current education systems do not have these types of well thought out conversations. And so when you go into a classroom and then you start to talk to students about climate change, solar, and the environmental components, they have no clue. So it's important for us to start flipping everything around and start pushing out these conversations. I am a homeowner. I do have solar panels as well, and I can tell you that the program that I originally got into, at that time, I thought it was a good program, but then things initially changed. And so as it boils down to now, I want students to start to understand the importance of this particular field and be educated on it, so that way they can help us figure out how we can get this grid right. Because right now, we do not have enough capacity in order for us to continue to move forward. We're still trying to have conversations about the grid and everything else at the state level, but there's also some community organizations that are also talking about the grid work, such as grid alternatives. And there's some other types of solar, local solar organizations or groups that are also looking forward to trying to figure out how we can address the grid and take some of the pressure off the state by allowing the community to reinvest back into the actual solar within itself. So there's, what is it, it's Grid Alternatives, and then there's another one as well that the Choice Creek and other ones are having these conversations in regards to what can we do to provide additional solar to avoid having us as constituents paying a lot more than what we need to be paying. I'm definitely paying a lot more than what I was told that I was going to pay when I got solar. And here I am now still having a solar bill, 2 different bills coming out on top of SDG&E. And now SDG&E is finally, yes, now SDG&E is finally giving me the credits that I should have had before. But we should not be sitting here to this day, and I've had solar now for about almost 10 years. I still should not be sitting here having a conversation and going back and forth about me still paying for the grid itself when I should already be covered. Okay, I had to add additional solar panels to my home because they told me that I had enough. Now you come back with, oh, you have to add more. And then now I'm paying for that. But there's other community options that are being pushed out right now in regards to trying to help us combat the need that is there and trying to work with the state in regards to building it out and allowing us as community members to actually have a stake in this particular process. And so I do encourage you to have some conversations with folks from Grid Alternatives and also Choice Creek and other ones as well in regards to the work they're doing to help inform the state in regards to some ideas, but also how you too as community members can get involved and be able to grow our homegrown aspect in regards to resolving the solar issue as far as the grid itself. So there is some work that's there. They're doing some work too. They were going to have a conversation with some folks in Lemon Grove as well in regards to that. So, yes.
Thank you. Our next question is, are you aware of LGBTQ students, especially trans students, are under attack as are school boards which support them? How would you address this in the assembly?
So yes, I am aware of the LGBTQIA+ community and how people are starting to use the school boards to infiltrate the education system. They're using the school boards to come in so that way they can start to move forward into these other positions as well. And so I am aware, me working for the San Diego County Office of Education, that's one of the areas of where we are having these conversations, but also providing board training to different school boards in regards to how to address different constituents that are coming in to try to disrupt the education aspect as things are moving forward. We have adopted a number of different types of policies, board policies to move forward to make sure that there's equitable training. I think it was a couple months ago, we did have a board presentation done by the, I'm trying to think what was the name of it. It was the transgender, I cannot think of the name of the organization at that particular time, but they came into the board meeting and they had a conversation and they did an actual board training. And so these are trainings that we're offering. We also have on our website, and I'm actually the co-chair of the LGBTQIA+ advisory committee meeting as well for the San Diego County Office of Education. But there's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of people, once, like I said, trying to move into the education aspect by running for these different seats. So that way they can push the initiative of trying to remove the textbooks from the classrooms. Well, luckily with Assemblymember Jackson's bill, that is being blocked. So therefore, the books will continue to remain within our schools. Me being a part of the ethnic studies component as well, it is extremely important that we continue to ensure that everyone sees themselves in all material. It's extremely important that we make sure that everyone knows that they are safe, that they feel respected, that they are being heard, and that they are being valued. And so part of my overall platform is to continue to look further into Title IX, just to make sure that those that are identifying as transgender or even non-binary and so forth have the ability to move forward in any type of athletics in trying to avoid the discrimination. While working in Weber's office, we also did the sex education curriculum to make sure that our sex education curriculum was all inclusive, to make sure that everyone is being heard once again and that everyone is learning about the value and importance of each other's life. We've also worked on legislation pertaining to the restrooms, and we're still dealing with this conversation of having gender-neutral restrooms and so forth. So, but when it comes to education, these are things that a lot of our folks do not want to talk about. A lot of people don't want to raise the flag and so forth, but we are raising the flag. We are standing strong. We are marching and protesting and doing all these types of things in which we can do to continue to support an LGBTQIA+ community. And so that is something that's near and dear to my heart, as my friends and family members and are also a part of the community as well. And so when it comes to education, I'm a big champion for it. As I said, I'm one of the co-leads, actually, it's the co-lead of the LGBTQIA+ advisory for the San Diego County Office of Ed, and we are addressing it in all forms and fashions. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is a really important question. I appreciate whoever wrote it. You know, a lot of, I mean, the last few years have been really, you know, surprising to a lot of people, myself included, that the idea of LGBT equality is now sort of up for grabs in the way that I thought we were, you know, I think a lot of people, I certainly am guilty of this, kind of got a little, you know, I thought we kind of won that fight, right? And it turns out we didn't, and things, you know, there's an effort to push that back. We actually, you know, we had a proposal from one of my my only Republican colleague on the city council to stop raising the pride flag over City Hall in La Mesa this year, or last year. And I thought that was grotesque. And fortunately, we pushed that back really strongly. I think we had a great moment where we read a proclamation affirming the city of La Mesa's commitment to being a welcoming city. I think a lot of people came up on the dais with us as we read that. Some people here even in the crowd were with us for that. And I think that's really important. And I think you know, so we started raising the pride flag a number of years ago in La Mesa. I was really proud to be a part of that. First city in East County to do that. Maybe the only one still. I don't know. And this is and I think one of the things that's really important, and I think this is something that didn't come. This wasn't obvious to me as I'm like a lawyer, right? Like I like think about words and laws and policies and this sort of stuff. But what's also important is symbolism. What's also important is communicating to the people of La Mesa, to the kids who are in school, to our surrounding communities that we're a welcoming and inclusive city. And so doing that above our city hall with the pride flag is one way of doing that, right? Another way of doing that is how we communicate as elected officials and leaders. I've been pretty consistent about being loud, about supporting the LGBT community and in who I hire to work for me, in the organizations that I support, in my activism, and I think that is absolutely gonna continue, right? That's really important. But you know, let's be clear here. The reason that you're seeing these homophobic elected officials in Orange County or elsewhere trying to ban books or to make kids feel unwelcome, that's not because they haven't gotten the right training, right? They're doing this because they're jerks and they don't agree with us and they're trying to make people feel bad. And so what we need to make sure that we're doing as elected officials and policymakers is that we're saying that is absolutely not acceptable. Right now, it's like basically they're not allowed really to do that already, right? It's like against the rules, right? But they're like breaking the rules. And so we need to make sure that we're that when they are trying to get around some rules, that we quickly say no to that, pass additional rules, you know, reaffirm our values as an inclusive state, and also support the executive electeds like the Attorney General and the Governor, who've been really active in going to those places and saying, listen, y'all can't do that, and we're not going to let you, and we're not going to take this line down. And then we need to be both, you know, be expressive and talk about inclusion, but we also have to be willing to use the powers of government to tell people to knock it off when they're being outrageous. And that's something that I think the legislature can absolutely do. Even if it's not taking direct action, right? Because it's like the Attorney General has to do it. We need to like call on them to do it, celebrate when he does those things, and make sure that everyone knows that we're not going to tolerate that kind of intolerance in California.
Go ahead. I mean, don't you wish every election in San Diego County was like this, where you have two amazing, outstanding Democrats in the finals? I mean, this is my dream. I want to move to a more of a nuts and bolts question. One of you will be setting up an office in the district and in Sacramento. Tell us about it, and constituent services are key to any elected's office, as we all know. I mean, Feinstein's office was amazing at this. I mean, Kennedy's office in DC. I mean, constituent services drive policy. I mean, when people in this room contact your office and say, hey, I have this issue, you have to have the staff, you have to have the ability to deliver, and that means managing two offices, one in Sacramento and one in La Mesa or wherever you decide to hire and set it up. Assemblymember Weber's is over here by the trolley stop in La Mesa. Tell us about your plans to set up your offices in Sacramento and in the 79th District, please.
Yeah, so I think, my guess is that the Department of Government Services has a longer term lease on that, so we might be stuck with that office whether or not we want it. So we'll have a district office in La Mesa. It's settled. But in terms of running and staffing an office, that's really important, right? So I've been the head of a small nonprofit for the last 8 years, and have a lot of experience hiring and onboarding folks, and so I think I'm looking forward to being able to exercise some of those skills in that process. I think it's going to be really important. I mean, this is a very diverse district. It's a plurality Latino district. I'm not Latino. I'm a white guy. I'm not a person of color. It's going to be really important to make sure that we have that I hire people both in the district and in the capital who represent the broad diversity of the 79th Assembly District. That's very top of mind for me. And then as a city council member for the last 7 years, I've been doing a lot of constituent service myself, right? I don't know if everyone knows this, like city council members in the city of La Mesa do not have staff, right? So when you send an email to my council office and you ask for a pothole to be addressed or a stop sign to put in, or you're mad about how the park looks or this, that, like, I don't have like a team of young up and coming people, reviewing that and trying to figure out how to handle it. I got to handle it. And so I have some of that direct experience. And what I will tell you though is that all the time I respond to people and say, hey, yeah, let me see if I can work on that for you or figure out a problem with this. And people say, oh my God, like no one's ever responded to one of these emails before, right? And so I think that is really, really, really important, right? It's very tempting as a policy nerd or as an elected official, as someone who gets on TV once in a while and gets to feel important, to forget that the big part of the job is just dealing with real, ordinary, mundane problems that regular folks are having to deal with in their everyday. And that's really, I take that very, very, very seriously. And it's a big part of how I spend my time as a council member and how I will spend my time as a representative of you all in the state assembly. And then in terms of the Capitol too, I've given this a fair amount of thought as well. I've worked in Sacramento. I worked as people probably know, I was an appointee for Governor Jerry Brown in the State Department of Housing for a couple of years. Worked in and out of the Capitol during that period. Met a lot of people in that, and it got a real sense as to what what kind of qualities are valuable for that sort of thing. And so I'm going to be really looking at for people who have a real keen interest in public policy, people who are willing to take some chances, willing to push the envelope, willing to work really hard to advance progressive public policy through the state legislation. And if any of you all are, if I get elected and you're all interested in that, or your kids are interested in that, I'm going to be interested in talking to them. But yeah, I think that staffing part and that constituent service is a key part of the job. That is, I'm grateful the question was asked because it's oftentimes forgotten in these campaigns.
Great question to ask as well. So having been the top aide for Dr. Shirley Weber when she was in the state assembly, I was her district director. So when it comes down to staffing the district office, so first off, yes, we're kind of going to be stuck. So we will be staying in La Mesa, which is great. So we're going to be here in La Mesa. But it's important to know that the budget itself that comes down to us for this particular position, you're only going to have so much for at least 4 or 5 staff members, technically for the district. The capital is going to be, of course, they're going to have a lot more funding to have a lot more staff. I think we had about anywhere between 10 and 13 staff members up in Sacramento, but we were having about 4 to 5 here. Sometimes we were able to get 6, depending on the different types of committees the assembly member was on. That helped to increase the budget. But it's important that, that we have staff that actually 100% reflects the diversity of this district. I'm not just talking about the ethnicity, but I'm also talking about the experiences. So it is important that we have some, of course, seniors, someone who is a senior within the office, or someone who specializes in that particular area, someone who also supports veteran services, someone who understands housing, someone who understands transportation, someone who understands education, all these different types of things. So your district office and your capital office have to have staff that reflects the different types of committees and different departments and services for which the state of California offers. So when it comes down to hiring folks for those areas, we ended up doing that to where some of us took on multiple different issue areas because we were familiar with these different areas. And so when it comes down to making sure that we have constituent services, I'll tell you now, being the district director, your staff here is the eyes and ears for the assembly member. Your member is halfway here. They're only here maybe 2 days a week, and then they get to be here for the weekend. So you have to have a strong, committed, dedicated staff to be able to make sure that you're being equally represented across the district. And so when it comes down to constituent services, it is my duty to ensure that we have staff members that are at the different club meetings. We were all at the Democratic meetings, the Central Committee meetings. We were at different community council meetings. We had some representation going to each city council meeting as well. So La Mesa, Lemon Grove, City of San Diego, staff members, they were all assigned to these different areas because it's important for you to stay abreast of the different things. You as the elected official, you're not going to know everything. That's the reason for having the different staff members. But it's also having these fruitful conversations with you all as well. We used to host what was called legislative brainstorming sessions. That is key. That's important because you as constituents, you have insight into things that some of us, we're not aware of. You have some great legislative ideas, some great proposals for us to move forward. Or there could have been some legislation that was introduced that is now tabled. So there's no rhyme or reason why we can't work with you to help justify and try to bring back a bill that was killed. Okay, so these are conversations that we have to have, but we used to hold legislative brainstorm sessions. We will continue to hold community recognition programs, so such as the Women's Month, Jewish Month, and all these other types of things. We've had celebration programs coming up. We know that there is, let's see, what is it? We just finished dealing with some of our Asian Pacific Islander month celebrations. We would jointly do some of these things for the month of September and also October to highlight the different ethnicities and cultures that exist. That's important to your constituent services because you're celebrating them. You're letting them know that you are there. You're there to connect with them, to meet with them, to learn from them, and to help grow the state. As it pertains to the Capitol office as well, I would have to have a strong chief of staff, a strong legislative director, and folks that can learn quickly and move quickly, because the pace in Sacramento is nowhere near the pace here within the district. And so people have to be able to move in and out of spaces. They have to be able to understand that we're going to have some tough battles, some tough fights across the aisles. But it's important to have people that are willing and able to learn and grow from each other and help the assembly member build these growing, trusting relationships. Because we can't get anything done if we don't grow and trust each other on both sides. And so it's important that we have staff that's able to do that particular work. But as you grow and expand and get on these different committees, that budget will increase and more local staff can come in, but also more staff can come into the Capitol office as well. That's just based on my experience having been in the district office.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, we're okay on time. With two candidates, it's a little bit different than what we had planned on, so we're okay on time. Look, I know you can't always get what you want, but you might just get what you need. When you go to Sacramento, what's your wish list for which committees you'd like to be on?
Good question.
Look, I wrote them all down. I did. I don't even have to read them all. But of course for me, education, right? Education, higher education. Aging, that's important because I'm going to be getting older too. So I need to make sure that there's things in place for me as I'm becoming a senior, okay? So aging, public safety, health, because I did serve on the board of Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Southwest for 6 years. So health is extremely important to me as well. Environmental safety, labor and employment, military and veterans, as when I was a former military spouse. And so that's extremely important. I also have family members that are also a part of the military and some that I have lost as well. Transportation, the budget committee number 1 dealing with health, budget subcommittee number 2 on dealing with human services. There's a couple more. Also the education finance, select committee. There's the select committee on domestic violence. It's important that I get on the select committee on the education master plan, because that plan is so old. There's a lot of work that has to be done to revise that plan. There's also a select committee on poverty. There's a select committee on racism and hate, which is something that we have to continue to look at. The reproductive justice and the restorative justice select committee as well. And there's also police reform. But there are, like I said, there's a lot more than this, but there are a lot of committees I would like to serve on because my overall platform has to deal with everything. And so it's important that I stand there and have a voice and make sure that I'm bringing your voices to the Capitol to be on these different committees. So, but those are some of my top committees I would like to be on, and yeah.
All right. I think my top committee is the one of the 2 or 3 that you didn't mention, and that's the housing committee. And so as folks know, I worked for Governor Brown on the State Department of Housing and Community Development. I was the director of policy at the San Diego Housing Commission here in the San Diego region, the public housing authority for the city of San Diego. My day job, I do a lot of advocacy around housing affordability and subsidized affordable housing, and so I've got a lot of background on that. And I think actually, by the way, if I get elected to the assembly later this year, I will be the only, as far as I know, I'll be the only member of the legislature who used to work at the State Department of Housing, and also the only one who worked for a local public housing financing authority, right? And so we'll immediately show up there with an unusual amount of expertise on those areas, and so I anticipate being invited to serve on the housing committee. My friend Chris Ward is going to be the chair this upcoming year. He's one of the he endorsed me for re-election. So did Assemblymember Alvarez and Assemblymember Borner. 3 out of the 4 Assembly members who've made endorsements in this race, and so I think we'll have some really strong partners to be able to work on those issues. But why housing? I mean, I'm not. The reason I want to do this is not because I'm like the most expert at it. Right? The reason I want to do this is the biggest challenge that people are facing in the 79th Assembly District and throughout California, right? I mean, everyone knows, everyone here knows, I'm not telling anyone anything new, it's way too expensive to live here, right? The rent is too damn high. Buying a house is completely impossible and out of reach to so many people, right? I'm a renter, I aspire to be a homeowner. I don't know when that's gonna happen. Right? This is a huge challenge, and it is the biggest expense that people have every month. It's the biggest financial purchase they're ever going to make if they're fortunate enough to buy a home, and it is just completely out of whack. And not only is it out of whack for people who are trying to rent or to buy, it is a major contributor to our homelessness crisis. Right? The housing affordability and homelessness are the top 2 things that I hear at the door when I'm talking to voters, and they're the top 2 things that pollsters hear from voters throughout California. This is the biggest challenge that we have, and we need to be making big commitments to fixing that. And I feel like I have the skills and experience to make a meaningful contribution to addressing that. And I think it would be my moral obligation to put my time and efforts on those issues. Now, presumably, I'll get to serve on some other committees too and work on some other issues, and I have some other things that I want to work on in the legislature. But that's got to be number one. And honestly, it's got to be number one for everyone there, right? And because it's the biggest challenge. So housing, I think also and then the next would be the budget subcommittees that are most related to housing and overseeing the State Department of Housing and Community Development and CalHFA and the other agencies. When I was working in the executive branch, saw very clearly. I was a little surprised about this, how much the budgeting process and the Department of Finance makes actual policy, not just assigning numbers. And so serving on those budget committees can sound really dull and boring, but actually a lot of the policy is actually made through the budgeting process, and so it'd be really keen to be involved in that as well.
You both drilled down on inside baseball, and you're really good at it. Politics is a lot, has to do with relationships. I mean, we all know that here. We've all worked in the political field, and you got to get good at it, especially when you have to deal with your fellow politicians and electeds. Rivas just got elected Speaker in the Assembly, a rather contentious little fight. How are you going to be able to work with leadership in the Assembly, the Senate, the Governor's Office, our federal delegation, but most importantly, how are you going to cultivate a working relationship with Speaker Rivas?
Yeah, great question. Well, I mean, the Speaker started following me on Instagram about 3 years ago, so we have a relationship that started there. If you need me to text him for something for you, you just let me know. But that's not because Speaker Rivas and I hang out all the time or text each other before bed every night. That's not the relationship. Not yet. But having such strong supporters in the legislature, like Chris Ward, like David Alvarez, like Tasha Barner, like Steve Padilla, like Catherine Blake Spear, those things are all, they have all been really valuable to me, helping me develop relationships with other elected officials and other members of the legislature, including leadership. But I also I know other people in the legislature through other means, and so in my day job at Circulate, we sponsored and supported a lot of different bills. Over the years, I've been invited to testify in front of the legislature a number of times. Last year, Laura Friedman, the then chairperson, I think she's still then chairperson of the Assembly Transportation Committee, she invited me to go testify at a joint legislative session about the future of transit funding in California, because I had a relationship with her and her staff, and they knew who I was, and they thought that I was a credible voice on those issues. And so I'm not going to be starting from scratch on those relationships, but I've been doing this throughout my career. I work with members of the city councils throughout the region in both my role as an elected official and also as a prominent advocate at Circulate San Diego, and have been able to develop a lot of these relationships over time. And part of it's because. Part of it's just time, right? Knowing people. But part of it's also this. I have an approach to folks is I really try to figure out a way to get along with people, figure out what we can work on together, figure out how to be polite to one another. There's elected officials all over the place that I disagree with on certain things, and we try to focus on the things that we do agree on and partner on together. And I think that's been a valuable way for me to approach my public service, and it's allowed me to be able to have the kinds of relationships that certainly have resulted in a lot of endorsements from local elected officials, but also more importantly has allowed me the ability to make public policy on behalf of our constituents, because I have the relationships, the trust, the friendships that I've built over time, and I'm going to continue that practice and that approach to my relationships and to public policy making as an assembly member as well.
So when it comes down to the relationships, so I too can text him as well. I can sit here and text Beavis, and we can have some conversations and move forward. And so when it comes down to being able to maintain and cultivate positive relationships, I've already been able to do that, not only having worked in Dr. Weber's office for those 9.5 years, but I've been able to continue on with those different types of relationships. Keep in mind that from that original group of those that were elected at that time, they're pretty much all termed out. However, their staff members that I've worked with are now running to fill those seats. And so those relationships are still there, and we're still having these different types of conversations. And so having been endorsed also by both Webers, so Secretary of State Weber, our very own Assembly Member, Dr. Akilah Weber, our State Treasurer, Fiona Ma, also our State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, and then also dealing with the Black Caucus endorsements, the Women's Caucus endorsements, and there's a host of other endorsements that has also come in. Those relationships that are there. They are there. So when we're talking about trying to move forward, it's important for me to continue on this legacy of being the moral compass of the Assembly. That's one thing that I know that our Secretary of State has always been, and that's what Dr. Akilah Weber has also been as well. Because it boils down to you being able to not only make informed decisions, but make decisions that are right and make decisions that are just. Making decisions that truly reflect your overall constituency, but also have to reflect your values and what's important for the state of California. And so it is my goal to continue on in that particular aspect and make sure that I'm making sound decisions based on facts, based on public policy, and based on public testimony that is being given as well, versus looking into what special interests have to say. So people will, from what I have seen, they have learned to respect you even more. When you look at the work that Dr. Shirley Weber has done and the utmost respect she has received, it's because she stands up to those that are there. And that's the same thing that I will do as well, is to stand up and make sure that what we're doing is right, is just, and that is moral. And once you do that, people will trust you, they will listen to you. When you speak, they will be quiet. If you notice, no one talks after her. No one likes to talk after her because they're going, okay, no one likes to do that. But it boils down to that. So when it comes to building trusting working relationships, once again, as I said earlier, you have to be your authentic self. And you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to learn and acknowledge that you don't know everything. And that you have to be willing to learn and grow with your constituency and learn and grow with your overall assembly members as well. That is key. And as you continue to work with them, they will continue to work with you. It's important to know, also to understand that you cannot always agree on everything. So you are going to agree to disagree on some of those things. But as long as you guys can agree on the facts and be able to move forward, the sky is the limit. And so therefore, your voices together will continue to equal power.
Thank you. Tell us about one or two of your political heroes and why.
Well, I just told you one. Yeah. I have to say, I mean, I'm just going to stick with Dr. Shirley Weber because of the fact that, one, I've been with her for almost 23 years. So me seeing her work and grow and the way she has been committed to this community unwavering for decades. And the fact that she is well respected and continued to speak up, as I've already stated, if it was right, it was just, it was moral, and she keeps the kids at the forefront, because if things are not going to work for the children, it's not going to work for the adults either. So we have to understand that there's no one-size-fits-all model, and she makes sure people understand that there's no one-size-fits-all model. She makes sure people understand that, even through your hard times, your voice is still valuable. You are still important. She makes people, she also brings people together to help them know and understand just what their true value is for themselves. I cannot tell you how many people has come through that office who have been down on their luck. But every time she has approached someone or touched someone and had these conversations, things have turned around for them. She's never closed the door on anybody. She's always been one to listen to everyone's side. Why? Because there's three sides to a story. And that's something that I will value as a assembly member as well, is that there's three sides to a story, and that's important, once again, to building, growing, trusting relationships. So one of my all-time leaders, it's Dr. Shirley Weber's hands down, and it has been an honor and privilege to have her in my life and serve as a mentor to me for about 23 years now. And so that's who I would speak about when it comes to this platform, because she's where she is based on the work that we've done in her office. And we all look to her, and hopefully one day I'll be able to fill that seat too.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I'll offer two. I mean, I think one, is definitely, Governor Jerry Brown. I got to work on his campaign first in 2010, and you guys, you've heard, right? We won, so kind of had the opportunity to work as an administration too, and certainly with a lot more up close interactions in the campaign than in the administration. But one of the things that I thought was really fascinating and counterintuitive but wildly effective that he was really good at is he was able to really narrowly focus on the stuff that really mattered, that and stuff that he wanted to make a priority to make some changes and adjustments to, and being able to some extent being able to provide much less focus on other things. And that was really frustrating for a lot of people who wanted him to weigh in on everything. But when elected officials, especially executives, but I think this is true for legislators and even council members as well, is you really can't make an impact on everything. You really do have to. It's a big state. There's a lot of stuff going on, and you gotta you gotta vote on everything. You gotta have an opinion on every bill, but you're really gonna have an impact on a relatively narrow set of things that you choose to make an impact on. And if you try to swing at every pitch, then you're not gonna make much of an impact, right? And I think as governor, Jerry Brown was really good at that, and it's something that I've tried to internalize in my own work, both in my day job and as a council member. I really try to focus on housing and transportation safety and climate, things that I have some expertise in, where I think I can move the ball. And that means that it's sometimes disappointing because you want to impact everything, but I do think that keeping focused is a big part of making real progress and helping people live in their lives. And then I'm also going to steal and also say Secretary of State Shirley Weber as well. And I'll just give you one little anecdote. I obviously don't have the same depth of relationship, but give you just one real choice anecdote. We had this situation a few years back while she was still the assembly member, and there was a proposal to have a kind of like a reentry office, like a parole office in the city of La Mesa, but really close to Mount Helix. And we got a ton of angry emails and calls from people, not in the city of La Mesa, but people in the Mount Helix who wanted to, why are we putting this here? This is bad. We don't want these people anywhere near us. And Shirley Weber, she came to a city council meeting once, and I was having a brief conversation with her, and she was like, oh, I'm also concerned. She's like, I'm concerned because there's not enough transit to help people get there. I'm concerned about how we're going to help those people who are trying to get their lives back in order. How are we going to be able to get them? Are we going to be able to help facilitate that? And it was, by the way, she's the only person I heard from during that entire period who was thinking about actually trying to rehabilitate people, right? And what are we going to do to be able to rehabilitate people? And that's the kind of, and we should all strive for that in public service. And she's a terrific example of what it means to be a great public servant. I'm so glad that she represented us and continues to represent us. And if I'm elected, I'm going to do everything I can to honor that service and her example as a member of the Assembly.
Before they wave me off, I got a couple more. This is an opinion question. The MAGA base supports Trump's dog whistles for hate and fear, attacking immigrants, Muslims, Mexicans, trans kids, and former Trump cabinet members. In your opinion, why does the MAGA base keep supporting Trump? It's an opinion question. It's
Gosh,
merely
if I had an answer to that, boy, I'd be
merely an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know, man. These guys are great. These guys scare me. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I think honestly, I think it's a variety of reasons. Different people support it for different reasons. I don't think there's just one particular thing. You know, some people are absolutely racist, but not all of them. Some people are really just like anxious about change and all that. Some people are just looking at 2019 when unemployment was low and inflation wasn't there, and they're just thinking those are happier times. I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons. But I think honestly, I think the biggest one, and this is one where there's very little to do about it, is that he's just been really famous for a really long time, right? And like that's a big thing, and people like fame, people like people who are important. Like guy made like a guest appearance in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like that was a long time ago, right? Like I knew who that guy was when I was growing up, and so I think that's the big one, and that in some ways should make people really upset and sad and depressed, because like there's nothing you can do about that. You can't make him unfamous, right? Infamous, I guess, but that's that doesn't seem to be a problem. But what I do think with the hopeful thing is though is that all the people who've tried the Donald Trump model of politics have really failed, right? And you know, you got like Ron DeSantis says, oh, everyone seems to like Trump being a crazy person, so I'm going to be a crazy person and see how it goes. It's not working out for him, right? And you've seen some other examples where people have done that. It generally doesn't work. Maybe there's a few exceptions, maybe members of Congress, right? Although they're all going to jail, so don't worry about that. So I think the hopeful thing, and I hope this is true. I mean, we'll see. But the hopeful thing is that his model of awfulness is not going to be replicable by people who don't have decades of fame behind them, right? And so I think that's true, and I think that's why we can, you know, that doesn't necessarily solve our problem in 2024, right? But I do think that I'm not super worried about like Trump 2.0 happening, because I don't think there's another person in Republican politics who has that level of sort of baseline fame, right? And so anyway, so I don't want to totally depress everyone. I think it's a problem, but I think it's a problem that's limited to him, and that will hopefully we won't have to deal with for his you know, people trying to emulate his politics.
So, still some of the same thing when you think about when we elected, well, people, not me, Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Famous, right? Once again, so you're dealing with fame, you're dealing with money, but then it also boils down to people's own personal biases and microaggressions that exist. Sometimes you have people that are scared of change. Then you also have people who are racist, but sometimes they don't realize that they are. And so when someone is speaking a language that you can relate to, you tend to gravitate to that. And so when it boils down to Trump itself, it has to deal with the fact that when you think about the Obama administration, some people felt as though, hey, we never got some of the things for which we were promised. But no one ever realized just the challenges that was placed before President Obama with the different oppositions that were there that kept some things from moving forward. But because you have that overall tone that states, well, this was promised and this did not happen, so we cannot trust those that are going to be within, you know, the Democratic Party. They make all these promises, but this didn't happen. No, the work was being done, but there was oppositions because seeds were being planted. So people are supporting him because, especially people of color. There's a lot of black people who are jumping ship because they feel as though there are promises that have been made to them, and the answers and the things just never came into fruition. And so that, in my personal opinion, is why people are starting to support him, because they have someone that is speaking their language. And it's a voice that was actually suppressed for quite some time. And now they're able to speak up and have a lot of different type of support behind them, and feel as though because he hasn't been, he basically hasn't been punished for the damages for what has been done. So they're saying, okay, well, because no one's going to do anything to him, he's Trump, he's famous, right? The money's there. I'm going to continue to do whatever I need to do here because nothing's going to happen to me. Well, that stuff has to change. But that's really why people are supporting him, in my personal opinion. So once again, I'll break it down: microaggressions, biases, fame, money. They are curmudgeons. They are scared of change. They feel as though they have someone speaking their language, providing them with the real voice, and people feel as though things that they've been promised never happened.
We've run over time, but so what? Give us your last elevator pitch. Why do you want this job?
Last quick elevator pitch. I want this job for you. If you happen to look at the material that's on the table, the actual walk card, it's talking about our voice, our power, and our future. My whole campaign has to deal with elevating my overall community voice. Once again, I am the only candidate in the race that was born and raised within a 79 state assembly district. I'm the only candidate that actually worked in the legislative office inside and out and has a thorough understanding of what it takes to do the work in that office. And so when you tend to think about the different things that has happened over the years, especially during our time when Shirley was there, and of course now with Tequila, there's a lot that still has to change. There's a lot that still has to happen. And so it's important that I make sure that you are no longer on the menu. We have to have a seat at the table of every conversation. You are leaders in your own right. You are leaders. Everyone in this room is a leader. Your voice is strong, your voice is powerful, and you need to have someone that is willing to elevate and carry that voice to Sacramento as we have these different hard-fought conversations. So me running for this seat, as I stated, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the constituencies of the 79th State Assembly District. This is the best district, in my opinion, throughout the entire state. This is the most diverse district throughout the entire state. And when you think about San Diego, we are on the map. Our voices, we are in leadership positions that no one ever thought that people from San Diego would ever be in. And so it's important to have someone that's going to stand, as I said before, about people's morals, their values, and who's going to be respected, who can be trusted to make the right decisions moving forward. And that you would never have to go to them and ask them, what about me? Because they carry you in their heart. And that's me as a candidate. I carry you in my heart, and it's important to me to make sure that we get what's right and what's just for us as the 79th State Assembly District itself. So thank you so much for having me here this evening. I truly hope I can earn your overall support. And yes, this campaign is not about me, it's about you. It's your voice, and our voices together equals power. And let's push that power to the Sacramento.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm running for the assembly for the same reason I ran for city council, and that's to help people. And it's something that there's an old Tip O'Neill saying. It's like, why do you want to work in government? The only acceptable answer is to help people. And I have I grew up Catholic. I have a very Catholic sense of that we have to do good works in the world and have to make a positive impact. And I feel like I've been doing that on the city council. I feel like I've been doing that with my career. Right, so and I want to continue to do that on a broader scale to help even more people. I'm really proud of the work that we've done in the city of La Mesa. Last year we broke ground the first 100% affordable housing project in decades. That's really exciting. We adopted the first enforceable climate action plan in the East County. We're the first city to raise the pride flag over our city hall. I mean, we're doing the things. And we're advancing a progressive democratic vision for our community, and want to make sure that we continue to be able to do that in the legislature. And I've got some real experience working on public policy. Just this last year, I drafted and my organization co-sponsored one of the maybe top 5 housing production bills signed by the governor this year or last year. And think that if I'm going to get elected, I'm going to be in a position to be able to help continue to advance really substantive policy that's going to actually help people's lives. It's going to help people's household finances. It's going to make it possible for people to afford a place near where they want to live, near where they work, near their schools, be able to buy a house if that's what they aspire to be able to get off the streets, to get away from addiction and homelessness, and to be able to live a dignified life, and to be able to have an opportunity to have that California dream. That California dream is slipping away, and we need to be really, really mindful about that and think about, okay, what are the tangible things that we can do to actually materially improve people's lives? And that's what I'm going to be really focused on in the legislature, making things happen, making sure that people are being able to benefit from our government and from my services as an assembly member. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk with you all tonight. I'm going to be having a campaign kickoff on Saturday, right over here. So if anyone would like to come join us, we're going to have Assembly members Ward and Borner and Alvarez and Senator Padilla, the laborers, the carpenters, the La Mesa firefighters. You guys want to meet the La Mesa firefighters, right? Yeah. So please join us. We'd love to have you there, and I would absolutely love your support, your volunteerism, and of course your votes. So thank you very much for having us tonight.
Thank you both. Let's give them a nice round of applause. Two of the most outstanding human beings you'll ever meet in your entire life. Mr. Parent, Ms. Sharp Collins, thank you for being here. You're wonderful. Let's hand it back over to our president, Ms. Rondo.
Let's give a hand to Chris for his very thoughtful question. I just have two quick announcements. How many of you have received an annoying email from me about Go Team? Okay, how many of you responded? Okay, those of you that have not responded, go ahead, please. This is how we support our candidates that we love. Second announcement, we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of a very dear friend of mine passing away from a heart attack that she did not know she was at risk for. If you are over 45 and you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high overweight, get your doctor to prescribe a cardiac CT. They can look inside the arteries of going to your heart and determine what your blockage is. I had it done last year and it showed mine, are completely clear. But, if you have something that is, she's got 7 children that are, celebrating 1 year without their mom. So anyway, those of you that are in that age category, or if you love someone that is, try and get your doctor. My doctor said it's really expensive, but I go for it. It cost me $15 after insurance. So I'm really pushing hard so that this becomes something that every woman does. Just, it's part of women's health, and that's very important to me. So looks like people want to, okay. You want to make an announcement? It's not about, okay, come on, quick, like 30 seconds.
I gotta go home.
The annual point in time, we were talking about homeless and houseless before, is Thursday, January 25th. If you are not doing anything between 3 in the morning and 8, if you know somebody who is not doing anything between 3 and 8 in the morning, please sign up for a point in time. It counts the houseless. Specifically in La Mesa, we need matching federal funds, state funds, and it's the only way that we can do it. It's a national count of every homeless in every state. Thank you very much. Thursday, January 25th, bright and early, because we need to count them when they're still sleeping, otherwise they're working. Thank you. See me afterwards if you have any questions. I've been doing it for 10 years.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle Krug, Region 22 Director for the California Democratic Party. If anybody is interested in going to Chicago with the Democratic National Convention or being elected to the Democratic National Convention, those forms to run are opening January 16th. So you can talk to me afterwards or go to the website cadem.org, and the timeline and information is there, and I will be sending it out to those of you that are delegates. Thank you.
Okay, it's time for the raffle. Rosemont, can you somebody look at my tickets? And I shouldn't pick because I have a horse in the race. Why don't you pick?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, ready? 0199368. 0199368. Woohoo! All right.
And what did she win?
$18 whole dollars.
$18. Well, thank you for being here. There's leftovers. Please take that. And we'll see you next month when we will have another great program. Thank you.
U.S. Congress would be getting started today. Yeah. Democrats don't know how to play hard. We're all Democrats, we care about people, we care about fairness. Both gave an excellent answer about fairness. But Republicans don't play by the same rules. They don't care about fairness. They got 7 million fewer votes in the next week on the control So, I'm just saying. As I joke with Chris, I take Orange County, Western 405, add it to Curry County, every state on the Nevada border. I say, that's one. I mean, it's a pipe. I'm just being provocative. I know this.
Yeah, so equal one vote in.
Here's the thing. Voters in San Diego County as well are in Iowa. And we're caring about Iowa wide.
Spend more money than you
Yeah.
We gotta have a project where we,
Redo them. Yes. Yeah. We should. Let's do that. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Sounds great. Because all it really takes is taking the spreadsheet and then you basically have to look at it to the one by one. Verify that it's correct, and then I can just put it into the. Yeah. So it's just not a big deal.
Yes.
She's louder for me, but thank you for having me here. Yes, I
Taking responsibility on that.
Here's your stuff.
Thank you.